So how'd you get started in all this?
Well, my grandmother needed assisted living and we were looking for a place for her, was disgusted by the options
Mm.
and knew that there needed to be something better. My dad had been a real estate investor for 40 years. And so we kind of put two and two together and jumped right into the world of residential assisted living.
Wow. So why were the options so disgusting back then?
Oh my goodness. I mean, even still now, if you walk into some of these facilities, the care is bad. They'll have 30 seniors to one caregiver.
Wow.
One person can't take care of 30 people.
Yeah. So they're only seeing them like once a day then.
If even, right? Because if they're getting a bunch of call buttons and attending to someone, they may not ever get to you. So
Damn.
it's pretty bad. The food can be pretty bleak and it's just, it doesn't feel like a home. You walk in and it feels like a hospital. And we didn't grow up in a hospital. So,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully none of your listeners did either, right? And so we want that home-like feel. And so this was a totally opposite experience where it's a literal physical residential home in a regular residential neighborhood, better quality care, 4-to-1 ratio or 5-to-1.
Wow.
And the food's better and it's just a more home environment.
Yeah, that's great. I would never want my mother to be in a home of a 1-to-30 ratio with bad food. And
No.
yeah, that
No.
sounds, because you're spending your final years there. That sounds horrible.
Absolutely. So quality care. And so we wanted that for my grandmother. We were looking for a place. We found one of these homes and purchased the business, purchased the real estate, was up and running and with the intent to move her in. She passed before we could move her in.
Oh,
But we kind of fell in love with the industry in the meantime because in all the forms of single family real estate, we were not cash flowing the way that we were with these types of homes. So it just made a lot of sense.
yeah. I've seen you talk about how you would prefer this over owning 20 Airbnb houses.
And apartments, like 50 apartments, you name it. This is so much, in my opinion, so much more profitable, way less work, and you're not dealing with all this turnover in and out all the time.
Right. Because you're just kind of facilitating. You're hiring the nurse, you're finding the tenants, and you're just kind of.
Yep, hiring that licensed administrator, so it doesn't even have to be a nurse,
Oh, okay.
right? But licensed administrator, they hire your licensed caregivers and you own and operate the business and the real estate. So 5-10 hours a week, once it's up and running, it takes a while to get it up and running for sure.
Yeah.
But once it's up and running, it's a lot more hands-off than people may think.
Wow, 5 to 10 hours a week is nothing. I do that a day with my podcast.
Exactly, right? If you could do this, you could do that.
Yeah, that's impressive. But how much capital would you say? Because you have to buy the house, right?
Well, you could lease the house.
Okay.
So 4 ways to get started. You could lease a home to use for this. That'd be a cheaper way to get in, right? Someone's already renovated it and you're going to come in, lease the property to use for this.
Got it.
You could buy a single family home and convert it to become. That'd be the cost of the real estate plus the renovation. You could buy land and build a custom home from the ground up. For those states where you're allowed to have, 10 to 16 residents in a home, I highly suggest a ground up build because you could do a perfectly suited home for this.
Right.
The 4th way you could get started is to buy an existing business, like I shared in the beginning that we did. So it's already up and running. You're buying the real estate, buying the business.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
4 ways, 4 different capital needs. And then depending on where you are in the country, it's going to range too. But let's just say somewhere between 300,000 and 3 million.
Yeah, that's cool because depending on how much finances you have, there's different options.
Absolutely. And we highly encourage people to not use their own money for this.
Wow.
Any form of real estate, you really shouldn't be using your own money, but especially this. There's so many people getting 0% on their money sitting in the bank doing nothing for them.
Yep.
If you could offer them 12-15% on an industry that will touch their heart, makes an impact, like they're going to say yes. This is
Yeah.
the easiest thing I've ever raised capital for.
Especially these days, man.